mentioned $20 an hour plus a bachelor's. Because there are a lot of jobs out there that are over $20 an hour that don't require a college education.
That's true.
Does a part of you, and we've heard this from some people today, feel like you were lied to a little bit? Like, get an education?
I feel very lied to. So I went to med school. I did my master's, my bachelor's, med school a little bit, and then I switched to tech. So at this point, I'm like, why did I go to school?
Right.
A Financial Times analysis of Gallup data found American Gen Z women are 30 percentage points more liberal than their male counterparts.
The thing, just from a security standpoint, Taylor Swift comes out against Trump.
I don't care if they write that. I'm sad that I didn't 2 years ago, but I can't change that. I'm saying right now that this is something that I know is right, and you guys, I need to be on the right side of history, and if he doesn't win, then at least I tried.
This is for Harrison Butker. Does life begin at conception or when you get married? And is it both? Is that why they don't actually care about kids? Because between conception and marriage, you're not really a person, and that's why we're defunding our schools, and Christian fundamentalists think that prayers are going to fix gun violence and the crumbling foster care system. Oh, also there's child marriage laws in a majority of states, including here in Missouri. So is that just you guys wanting the baby to get to their second life really quickly? Is that the goal?
TikTok was basically full-time for me. I was taking ads by the time I graduated college from the Biden administration and Planned Parenthood and dating apps and stuff. So it was fully financially, sustaining.
So you were getting, the Biden administration was buying ads from you?
Yeah, I was doing full-on political propaganda.
You've heard the old saying, women can't live with them, and they always vote Democrat. In yesterday's installment of Talking with People, I spoke with a wide array of different Americans who spanned the political spectrum. Many of you were surprised by how these people leaned politically, because it turns out that judging a voter by their immutable characteristics may not be as productive as once thought. Today's a little different in that we'll be focusing on one specific conversation, though it takes place with 3 subjects. And I know what you're thinking. At first glance, there's very little chance that someone like me would find common ground with a group of self-manifesting 20-something-year-old ladies who just came from high tea. Hold on to your hats, because this may not go exactly how you were expecting. This is Talking with People. Happy birthday. What's your name?
Thank you, Maddie.
Maddie, nice to meet you, Maddie.
I'm Janice.
Janice?
Yeah.
Itze?
Itze, yeah.
Itze?
Yeah.
Am I okay? All right, I'm doing my best. Here, I'm gonna get on one so I can get the 3 of you. Or should I be sandwiched in between? I don't know. So Maddie, Itze, Janice. Okay, yeah. I'll remember that because Janice introduced my dad to my mom. She was her language. So is this just you're dressed up just because it's your birthday?
Yes.
We just came back from the French room.
We went to high tea. Yeah.
High tea.
In the French room.
What's
in
that?
the Adolfo Hotel.
If you look at me, I clearly don't know anything about high tea.
It's just a tea party.
Little sandwiches.
And sandwiches.
Oh,
and tea.
it's one of those things where they charge you more for smaller portions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The kind of thing that only women like, and they drag them into.
It's the aesthetic.
Yes. It's like brunch on steroids, where guys are like, why am I paying $25 for eggs?
Exactly.
And the women think it's cute. All right, so how old are you today?
27.
27. All right, you all around the same age group?
29, 26.
26? Okay. All right, so a close cluster there. First question, are you planning on voting in this election coming up?
Yes, I'm registered to vote.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, are you paying attention to the election? Is it at the front of your mind?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of it on the media, and I just had to write a paper on something pretty controversial. So I've been very passionate about the Dakota Access Pipeline and all the pipelines that are being put underground by a Dallas-based company, Energy Transfer Partners. Basically, the pipeline's already leaking. It's already been built, and it goes under a lot of fresh water sources, and it can contaminate water for thousands of Americans. So it's something that I wrote about, and I just found out today I got an A.
Yay.
So I'm really excited about it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good.
You did a good job.
How about yourself?
What's the question?
Sorry, I said, well, I can tell Janice is the one who takes charge and starts talking about pipelines and stuff. So you're like,
I don't know about pipelines.
No, most people don't, aside from the people who need access to energy. Do you have something that's at the front of your mind as far as this election? Like, what's most pressing? Like, what do you think is at stake?
Really, I don't know what's at stake, but I would like to be a homeowner.
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like it's not a great time.
It's not the best.
I don't feel like I have the same opportunities my parents do, so I'm like, oh, I would love to be a homeowner.
We've heard that a lot from younger people today, that getting into home ownership is tough.
Yeah.
What do you think, Isai?
From what I heard, because I work in the private airline industry, and so for corporate aviation, I heard if a certain party gets elected, they're going to be taxing on corporate jets, and so I would be out of business.
Right.
So that's one of my concerns.
How much you want to bet Al Gore and John Kerry still take private jets?
I don't know.
They don't
probably,
like some people.
Yeah. So
do you work with like corporate chartered flights, or do you mean like a major airline?
I do. I'm an independent contractor,
Okay.
so I don't work with a corporation itself, but I know it would affect me and my job opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you feel the economy is as far as job opportunities for people in your age?
It's very difficult. I have a degree in marketing, and it's so hard to even get an entry-level position as a marketer.
Really?
And they want to offer $20 an hour and require a bachelor's, which is ridiculous. You can't live off of that in Dallas.
Yeah.
$20 an hour?
15. I've seen. I've gone on Indeed, and even 15 for entry-level marketing positions is what they're offering. And even for me, it's hard to get something like that, even though I have experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult for our generation, and I'm sure it's difficult for everybody in general.
Because you also mentioned, this is interesting to me, you mentioned $20 an hour plus a bachelor's. Because there are a lot of jobs out there that are over $20 an hour that don't require college education.
That's true.
Does a part of you, and we've heard this from some people today, feel like you were lied to a little bit? Like, get an education?
I feel very lied to. So I went to med school. I did my master's, my bachelor's, med school a little bit, and then I switched to tech. So at this point, I'm like, why did I go to school?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm like,
be a doctor.
Yeah.
And then realize
so
quickly.
now I'm like, I mean, maybe if I got a computer science degree, maybe it is worth it.
Right.
But the cost to, like, the benefit, I don't know.
Yeah.
I could have just gone straight into my job, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of societal pressure to get a college degree, even though nowadays it honestly doesn't mean much. Because you have UPS drivers making, what is it, 100
grand a year.
100 grand a year. So it's like, you don't need a degree for that kind of job. So why am I putting thousands of dollars into getting a college
I should just
degree?
create content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately a lot of young women are just going to OnlyFans now too.
That's true.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've noticed? Do you have you have quite a few friends who do that?
I feel like that's become like the easy thing because of the industry being so competitive, even from foreign people too. They're coming really educated, and they are getting hired because they're willing to work for a little less. So it is very competitive and cutthroat.
So you got the message, I guess, growing up: go to school, get straight A's, probably take out a loan if your parents weren't able to afford it for you, and you get out and you're going, I'm basically charging the same as a guy who's a shift manager at Dunkin' Donuts.
That's right. That's perfectly correct.
The gender gap too. Since I work remote, I want to apply as like Matthew King instead of Maddie King because I'm like, maybe I get paid more as a man.
And adding on top of
That's not a thing. I'll go back. As someone who employs 30 people, it's not a thing.
Like, no.
If I could get away with it, then I would never hire a guy again. I just if I could pay women less,
Adding on top of that, I feel like diversity is being prioritized over experience because in the aviation industry, that's what they're doing at a lot of airlines. They're hiring for diversity purposes instead of experience. So you're having a lot of these issues with, they're saying the Boeing manufacturing is terrible quality control. But a lot of it is because of the new hires, the new pilots that don't have as much experience, but they're hired because of the diversity quotas that they're trying to fulfill.
Yeah, and the reason I say this is because I don't want you to buy into another lie that women make 77 cents on the dollar. It's not.
Oh, really?
No, it's not
true.
It's not true at all.
Okay, I'm gonna be like, okay, where's my raise?
Yeah. No, but a lot of women do believe that.
Oh, okay.
And at my company,
That's
as a matter of
good
fact,
to
the second person in command is Nancy. We'll probably have to edit out their name. She's an absolute killer. Like, she is a bulldog.
That's awesome.
And she works with another lady named and it really just comes down to who's right for the position. But the idea that men are going out and hiring men, like, why would I hire a man if I could pay a woman less? I could just cut the costs of my business by, 23%.
Yes.
So don't buy into that.
Okay, good.
But that's a good thing.
I'm happy.
So it seems like there's a mixed bag here because obviously your view on the Dakota pipeline would be something that would be seen as more left. But then obviously you all seem to agree on the idea that maybe the education system has failed you on the promise.
Yes.
And the DEI kind of diversity situation has made it tough to get a job. So with all that being said, who do you think is best, or at this point in time, how do you think it goes? Do you think there's one person who's better than the other to kind of rectify this or provide you with more opportunity? The opportunities that you said maybe your parents had that you feel you didn't.
Anyone?
I personally don't feel like there is anyone on the top of my head that I see fit more than the other.
We want a third option.
Yeah, I just want to see, like, we saw what Trump America was like, and although the economy was booming, like, Biden's America has been very hard. I got laid off. I was doing accounting at a construction company, and I was making great money, and it pushed me back into school because all of these places want you to have a bachelor's and stuff, and I was just straight off experience. And so right now I'm in the middle of school at almost 30 because the requirements are different, but yet, like, the industry hasn't changed. We were using the same programs that were built years ago.
Right.
So it's just completely different, and it's not caught up to standard of what we need for today.
Well, you just said the economy was booming under Trump. We've seen Biden's America, but no one's more fit than the other. Seems like you're saying there was
a lot of issues with Trump too. You know, just all the hatred and racism that comes with it that people associated with Trump, and all the protests that happened, the violence. So all of that is what made me feel very sad to see people breaking into Targets, breaking into Walmarts to make, like, their voices known, that they're minorities or they're not getting their voices heard. A lot of that I found very disturbing, and I don't want to see that happen again.
And forgive me, how is that Trump's doing? People breaking into Target or Walgreens in San Francisco?
Well, it was a lot of it was him, like, persuading people to do something about what they're unhappy about, and, like, breaking into the White House and things like that. It just seemed like it fueled people to do something just out of the ordinary.
Yeah. But it seems like all these, you're talking about, you know, for example, Black Lives Matter, the Summer of Love,
yes,
and now you're seeing it with Palestine, you know, on campus, that those were people in opposition to what Trump stands for. It seems like, really, if you were to take that and segment it out and say, okay, these were radical leftists who were committing acts of violence.
Yes.
But then go back to what you said, the economy was booming, I got laid off. It seems like one of those things where maybe it's personality versus results.
There was, like, pros and cons. It was pros and cons, I think, to both.
Yeah.
But I do think that the economy was better under Trump, for sure.
Right.
Definitely.
That seems to be an overarching theme today, aside from a few people.
Has the theme been, like, women's rights, like, to their autonomy at all, or not really? It's kind of like a last year's thing. Last year's.
I know Biden's hoping
What's the topic right now?
Well, not the. Most people say it's the economy and immigration.
Yep.
The economy and immigration seems to be.
We're in Texas. Yeah.
And what about yourself? Would you say those are kind of the big issues? Because it seems like you're all saying the economy.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe, like, the women's rights, like I brought up, is definitely one of the huge
factors. I worry that we'll lose, like, I know some states have thought about, like, contraceptions and stuff. I'm like, oh.
But another thing, too, I do want to know, like, the student loan debt. That was something that was brought up by Biden, and that never really happened.
False promises by the president.
It's a lot of false promises, and it makes us give up hope on Biden. And even then, I wasn't really a huge fan of him.
Yeah,
right.
Neither.
But still, it just makes me not
want him in the office again, for sure,
Right.
not Biden.
Well, it seems like student loans not such a great thing, considering that you said the degree is not worth the paper it's printed on.
It's not.
But that's what you're pressured into whenever you're younger, right out of high school. You know, your family pressures you to get a degree because degree equals, you know, a great job, and that's what you have in your head when you're a kid.
Right.
So you obviously stick to that, but it's not what the reality is.
Right. And there were a lot of people who were upset on the other side of the coin with student loans. You know, for example, people who either paid off their loans or people who chose not to go to school because they said, I don't think it's going to, they went to go work in an oil rig.
Yeah.
And they're paying taxes, saying, I don't really think that my tax dollars should go to forgive a loan for whatever it is, a gender studies degree.
Right.
And it seems like everything that people say maybe was good under Biden was kind of a promised government program that came from tax dollars.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've...
I definitely don't think our tax dollars are going in the right places. Our education is not the highest. The food in our school system is poison. There is a lot that we're lacking in America that could be improved and focused on, and it's not. A lot of countries are advanced and have better energy systems, food quality, education, and we're not there.
Like what kind of energy systems do you mean?
Just more solar and wind power. I mean, we both have Teslas, and we get to enjoy, like, not having to pay for gas and not worrying about an outage or pipelines busting or gas prices going up. So So there's a lot of clean energy out there, and I know that the batteries aren't made in the best way, but there's
They're made in the worst way.
Right.
The worst possible way.
Right, but there's new technology that we could be reinforcing to make our country better.
Yeah.
It's just being ignored and swept under the rug.
So you would like to see more solar and wind?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and cleaner food without pesticides, more organic food for the children at the schools.
That's not gonna happen.
And the market. Yeah,
That's
because
the pharmaceutical
I feel like the pharmaceutical industry wants us to be sick, wants us to have cancer, wants us to be on medication because it's $1 billion industry. So the fact that we could grow our own food and be organic, it's not something that I feel like the country focuses on or wants to push, but would be the best.
Right. So not big fans of the big pharmaceutical industries.
No.
What about the COVID mRNA vaccine?
Oh no,
No?
definitely not.
No?
I'm not
Definitely
vaccinated, so no.
No?
I've
Not
never been.
vaccinated. I've had COVID twice, and everybody that had COVID in the office was vaccinated, and I got COVID from someone who had their vaccine.
It's unfortunate that businesses at the time are pushing for the vaccination.
Right.
And so I remember like going into one of the businesses, I was like companies, they were pushing for the vaccine. I was like
forcing
I'm not
you
getting
to do
that.
it.
I'm not getting that.
I did it. I don't
Yeah.
care.
You did it?
Yeah.
All right. So you didn't. You did. Another broken promise. You said someone who was vaccinated gave you COVID?
Yes.
Remember, if you get the vaccine, you can't get it, or at the very least, you can't
Yeah,
transmit it.
yeah.
That's like, well, you'll transmit it and you can get it, but it won't be
Right.
as severe. Like,
Right.
well, it may be severe, but you won't be in a hospital and a death. Another
Yeah.
broken promise.
Another
I hear
broken
a lot
promise.
of like issues with the vaccine are coming up, right?
Yes, with women and fertility and things like that. So it makes you
getting
wonder if it had anything to do with population control, because China's really big on that.
Right.
About the vaccine.
But the problem is, you mentioned China, but then you mentioned solar and wind, where, first off, this is one place where I would disagree. There is no country that's made that work. It's not efficient energy. We just spoke with a man from Germany, right? They went away from nuclear while France went to nuclear, 0 carbon emissions. Solar, wind didn't work. It's been a disaster for Germany. And I don't know if you know where those solar panels come from, or even talking about electric vehicles. China. China really is in charge of not only the batteries, but they're actually the #1 producer now of EVs. And as these regulations come into place to force everyone to go to EVs, you're going to embolden and empower China, where I don't know
That's
if they don't have the strictest emission standards over there in
Yes,
China.
and I think that we've had a huge reliance on China. I also learned that environmental science, where we have the resources, but the labor cost is cheaper in China.
Sure.
So a lot of the resources that we're getting from China are available in other countries, but because their labor is so cheap, that's why we keep outsourcing to them, which is giving them so much power, which is another thing that I feel like we should get away from.
Well, come on, of the two candidates, who do you think is going to be tougher on China?
Trump,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
think it's, I mean, it's practically a catchphrase.
Yeah.
Right, where he says China
For
all the
sure.
time. So you still don't know how you're going to vote, though,
Not
because Trump's a
yet.
dick.
Yeah.
But everything you say, China, the vaccine,
Yeah.
the rollout, all these broken
It's
promises.
a hard election for sure. Out of all of the ones, I think this is one of the more important ones, especially since we're declining so fast. And I think that our country has been seen as weak since Biden has been in office, which is very concerning.
So you're not going to vote for Biden, it sounds like,
No, heck no.
but you're reticent to pull that lever.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I think you know how you're going to vote. You just have to you have to go,
kinda
I
hard.
don't know.
It's hard.
Yeah. How about
definitely
yourself?
have to vote for Trump because my job relies on it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but it's unfortunate because I'm not really much into politics, but I know that that's going to really affect my job opportunities. So I have to. That's the route I have to go.
And were you old enough to vote last election? Mm-hmm. So who did you vote for last election?
I didn't vote.
You didn't vote? Did any of you vote?
I didn't vote.
You didn't
I
vote?
voted.
Yeah? Who'd you vote for?
I voted for Biden.
You voted for Biden. Okay. Do you think you'll do that again?
I'm not sure.
Okay. It sounds like, because there's been a lot of shifting we've noticed today, where a lot of people said, I voted for Biden, I'm not going to do that again. I've heard that a lot today. And it sounds like you didn't vote, but
Yeah, no, but I know who I'm going to vote for
I can't
this
believe
year.
it's the same outcome. Why do we have the two same options?
And the thing is, so many policies are so old where the Congress is paying themselves all this money and they get to be in there forever and they're on these old ideas. We need fresh, young, new people in there who are making the decisions versus people who are like literally not even showing up to work and getting paid our tax dollars, which people don't focus on, but that is a big thing.
Yeah.
Those people in Congress are like 90, 80, like, how can they make a feasible decision on what our lives are now?
Right.
Because everything's different.
I don't think a lot of young people vote. When I ask my friends and they're upset about the outcome of election, I'm like, well, did you vote? And they say no. Every time, yeah. I'm like, oh, well, that's why.
I feel like
That's
a lot of our
why.
generation avoided voting last time because the two options were not good.
The best.
Yeah, so we didn't want to vote. That's one of my reasons is because I didn't know which one to vote for. They all seemed like they were terrible choices. So I didn't have...
Would you say a reason maybe that you're voting for Trump this time, and I know you're undecided, but even considering it, is because of the contrast where, like you said, the economy was booming, like you lived under a term of Trump, and for any of the negatives, you see the difference economically, and now you have Biden. Like, do you think that's something that maybe hasn't happened in your lifetime where you go, there's a noticeable change?
Yeah, I mean, we bought our house on that interest rate. It was like 3%, and I was making a ton of money, and things were good. I was living the life, and now I'm not. So that definitely hurts you when you're able to provide a certain life for your family, and then it gets taken away because interest rates are higher, because, you know, of the interest rates, it's like a domino effect on everything, everybody's livelihood. We're millennials, so people in our generation are stuck with what the boomers did and the generations after us, and their decisions are still overpowering our lives.
Right. Yeah, so you feel like maybe you don't have a voice in that as much. Yeah, and also don't count on that Social Security check when you reach that age.
Right. They're saying the boomers
70 years old.
They're going to run out in like 10 years.
They're trying to raise the retirement age for us, and they're saying the boomers are going to basically take it all. So
there's a good chance that it won't be around, or at least not in its current capacity. So I would advise saving yourself in a different portfolio than relying on Social Security.
That's correct. And we did learn that in school recently, that it's projected that we won't get our Social Security because the boomers, such a large population retiring.
So the one thing it sounds like that makes you a little bit hesitant is because of what you saw, social unrest under Donald Trump.
Yes, I just don't like the hatred and the anger and the lack for care of the environment, because sure, gas and oil are great. We have diesel trucks and a million dirt bikes at home. But our clean water is not something that we can continue to risk. Pipelines can be rerouted to areas that don't run over fresh water. That's the big thing. Why don't you just put the pipeline somewhere else away from our fresh water sources? So the lack of care for the environment also is what makes me worried.
Yeah, take it up with this one. Take it up with your friend, because she works in private air travel.
And I'll be honest, it's not. Sometimes we drop people off in Cabo and we have to fly all the way back, and then just to fly back to pick them up. So it's honestly not like environmental.
I fly a lot. I go on cruises. I realize that gas and oil are important, but the way that we're doing it can be improved.
Yeah.
We don't have to run these pipelines near our freshwater sources, and that's my biggest problem.
Right.
Isn't there a rumor of electric airplane? Any rumors?
Think so.
I don't know.
They're
said maybe.
they're not really super effective at this point. There are electric drones that can kind of fit two, or more like air cabs eventually, like Uber. I think Uber Air is something that they're sort of testing actually, maybe in Dallas.
Yeah.
But you can only fit a few people. It doesn't have a very long range.
Help if we just have a train from like Dallas to Houston to Austin.
I don't know if a train's more effective, is it?
Than driving.
Well, I mean,
inconvenient.
Yeah, I don't know about
Europe and everywhere has trains but us.
Yeah, they do. That costs a lot of money though too. And then we get back to the
it's
text.
a lot of coal too.
Well, if you get away from pipelines and gas and coal, and then there's nothing left except for solar and wind, and now we're back to China.
Yeah.
I just want more holidays and 4-day work weeks. I don't. The rest is like whatever.
Yeah. Well, in that case, vote Biden, and then see if it's another broken promise as far as 4-day work weeks. You know, you could probably go to Europe and do pretty well.
I know. They say people our age in Europe are ranked way happier than we are.
I honestly think it has to do with the food. It has to do with the food, because the food controls your hormones, and that's one of my big things is eating healthy and eating clean. And it's so hard to do here in the States, especially with a bunch of fast food being so easily accessible. So like you got Chick-fil-A right in the corner of Starbucks. So obviously
apparently,
people
Lunchables has lead in it or something.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't want to defame Lunchables at this point. I kind of think you know what you're getting. I don't think that anyone is thinking Lunchables. It's not.
I'm just saying that's like a minor example of everything's a little bit poisoned here. Where our food labels have bad ingredients that other countries don't have. And makeup products, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have more choice here. Like, I will say this, I never ate healthier than when I was dirt poor. When I was dirt poor, I would go to the store. I was living in California. Yep, I would, I'd get oats.
Yep.
That was cheap. Back then, eggs were relatively cheap.
Yeah.
Oats, eggs, milk. I'd get whatever fruit was on sale, tuna, put in a package, and I'd actually buy sometimes baby food, because there's always baby food on sale, and as long as you get past it. But
Applesauce.
that's what I was eating all the time. I really kind of had to pare it down, and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm eating really at this point, this would have been 2008, 2009, on what would be considered pennies a day, just by limiting it. I could have easily gone to Taco Bell, but I knew that wouldn't be good for me. There's a lot of other countries, you're talking about inflation, groceries are more expensive.
I feel like eating out to restaurants is equal to grocery prices at the moment.
Oh, it's way more. It's way more.
Depends where you go.
We probably spent over $400 today at the hotel.
Yeah.
That's like a week of groceries.
Yes.
I think we're really blessed to live here, and I'm still really happy.
To be in the
I don't have
suburbs
much
of
to
Dallas.
complain about. I know a lot of places are way worse than we are. I'm
yeah.
happy. This is just nitpicking. I feel like at this point.
We're definitely at the highest level of income compared to the majority of the world, and I think a lot of us don't realize that.
Right.
Be grateful.
So that was part of some of the things that I learned today at school, was just the levels of income and how we really are at the highest level already, but we don't realize how privileged we are and how much we really have as far as opportunity goes. In comparison to the majority, like
Even
people who
just
walk
drinking
to
water.
work barefoot and ride their bike, where we have cars. And
Or high tea.
high tea.
That's about the epitome of white privilege, let's be honest. Even if you believe it's a thing, which I don't, high tea, you're spending more for, let me guess, the little macaroons?
Yes.
Oh.
Biscuits and
I don't even know what we had.
scones and it was pretty filling, surprisingly.
I think we're just comparing our life to
We're
the
just
boomer
trying to
generation.
max our potential.
Yeah, it would just be nice to not, like, our house, when it was first built, was probably not $350,000, right? But we're stuck paying these astronomical prices just because of, all the change that's been going on with interest rates, population growth, things like that.
But you also have to take into account, you talk about the previous generation, right? You could eat bologna on Wonder Bread and get a 1,200 square foot house, which was the average house back in the day. You could get that for really just a song these days.
Yeah,
But I'm assuming that's not what you're looking at.
Yeah. They say even I think from a year ago to today, or even 2 years ago, you have to make 80% more income to get like the same standard. And I'm like, oh well, shoot, my salaries aren't going up 80%. So like,
They're not matching to what inflation is.
1 year.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
And some people's apartments cost more than our house.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's really bad too. There needs to be more regulation on that.
Well, the problem is there's a lot of regulation and their business is too big to fail. BlackRock and Vanguard, and they're buying up a lot of homes and turning them into rental units.
Right.
And it's not people buying houses. It is companies that frankly don't necessarily have America's best interest at heart.
That's true.
Buying them, turning a class into renters.
Yes.
coming or tried.
You're not seeing anything severe come
Maybe
down
just
the
Airbnb.
pipeline. Yeah, because they're too big to fail, right? These people are part of the World Economic Forum and, of course, huge supporters of this administration. And they'll receive favorable policies. But I would say I agree with you on a lot of that. It's about $12,000 actually. An American family right now, just as far as groceries and day-to-day items, needs $12,000 more than they were making in 2019 to live the exact same and purchase the same groceries. But the flip side of that is, again, you mentioned even like organic food. That was not an option too. So you also have more options now where you could live far out from the city, get something for really inexpensive. I think expectations, again, some of the broken promises come into play. So it's not all bad.
Yeah, not all bad.
But I would agree with you that there's been a shift. And a lot of people here have been saying, you know what, I've seen a contrast and my vote is switching.
Yeah.
So
I think definitely Trump's gonna overrule Texas for sure.
Yeah.
Who are you voting for?
If you want, I definitely would vote for Trump over Biden.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if those were the only choices and we can't ride in somebody like Taylor Swift, right? Then it would probably lean more towards
Would you
Trump.
like to be president?
No, God, no. No, you don't want me to. No.
That's my worst nightmare.
People talk about skeletons
I don't want
in the closet. It's just like everything. I've grown up in the era of social media where like, I'm running for president and they would just play something that I've publicly uploaded. Be like, is that not you?
They dig deep in your likes and your tweets.
Like, this is what you did when you were 12.
Yeah, they don't even need to dig deep for me. They're just like, you did Cultural Appropriation Month just 2 weeks ago. Yeah, but no, I would even say I wouldn't shy away from it. Big fan of what Trump did for the economy. I held my nose when I voted for him. He was an unknown. I would actually disagree with you, since you're asking me on the idea of these protests. I mean, you look at it, Black Lives Matter. You look at what happened with Antifa. You look what's happening right now with the pro-Hamas protests. These are not, these, by the way, they're funded by either foreign entities or AstroTurf, and it's designed to make you think exactly what you think. Oh my gosh, if Trump gets in, we'll have to deal with riots. And I don't think that really our democratic republic, our representative republic, should be subject to mob rule. You should never be afraid to vote, because Trump didn't call people to commit those wanton acts of violence. I mean, that entire summer, right, where they're burning down cities.
Anyone could have been
But obviously the general population is going to correlate that with Trump's.
With the president.
Yeah, with the president.
I think everybody will blame the president no matter what. But also we haven't had that kind of hatred and riots since like his administration, minus the Palestine stuff.
Sure we have, yeah, that one's pretty bad. And we had Black Lives Matter before he was coming in, right? That was a big reason that he won, right?
Yeah.
They were burning down cities, so they just acted up again. And I think that if you were to ask yourself who has not called for violence versus Kamala Harris and Joe Biden saying they're not going to stop rioting in the streets, nor should they stop. They need to make their voices heard. I would disagree that I don't think that you're making anything heard by stealing from a Walgreens. And I don't think that has anything to do with Trump.
That's true.
I think it's just that person's an asshole. Because there are plenty of people who are poor in that same neighborhood who've not decided to rob their neighbor.
Right.
But that's just my opinion. I think that they do want you to see that and be afraid.
Yes.
And go, gosh, like you've said, economy was better for my own self-interest to not only my jobs, but as far as America's standing. Yeah, but I'm afraid because of this violence. I would ask, if that's kind of the only thing standing in your way, I would ask yourself, well, why is that?
Yeah.
Some people want you afraid.
That's the biggest thing, is the hatred associated with that.
Do you think he hated anybody though, Donald Trump?
I don't think so. I think that he's just a regular person that really wants to make big changes. But people are perceiving it in a different way. Everybody is taking what he's doing in different ways, and not everybody agrees with them. But I do agree with a lot of the things that he says. Like, if you're a girl, you're a girl. You're a boy, you're a boy. And I might get a lot of hate for that.
You will.
But that's the truth. You were born that way. Is there an issue if you want to change it later on? No. Be who you want to be. But when you're born, the fact that they don't even want to identify a baby anymore, like, clearly you're born with a gender, whether you want to believe that's you or not. That's one thing that I know Trump's pretty strict about.
Yeah, you're going to have to vote Trump. You have Biden, where he said he thought it was evil for parents to not affirm their children's gender transition. Like you said, it's
ridiculous. I don't think children have the mental capacity to make that decision. They're still growing.
You have children here wanting to be astronauts. That's something unrealistic. So how do you think a child could know what their gender is?
Yes, I think parents have a big influence on what children do and want to be.
Oh yeah. Also, kids are stupid.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, all I knew was that my parents, this is a true story, my parents, I saw them as roommates. When I was young, my brother and I shared a room.
Yeah.
And then he was getting his own room. And then I realized, wait, hold on a second, adults are not, you don't get to be roommates with your brother anymore. The only roommates I knew were my parents. So I thought if I grow up, I want to be a woman so I can be roommates with my brother forever. I just thought I could just be and I thought, they were like, no, that's not how that works. We're married. And I thought, wait, when I grow up, I'm going to have a woman in my house instead of my brother? You can't comprehend it at 3 or 4.
Right, and I think kids playing with dolls and stuff doesn't mean that they're a girl. I think that's so stupid.
I was looking up their skirts.
Yeah, so what do you think? A kid playing with a doll, you're gonna call him a girl because that's considered a feminine kind of.
It's very controversial for sure. And I will say my son is 7 years old and he designs Barbie dresses. And he loves to sew and design. And I just encourage him. But does that mean that he wants to be a girl? No. But if I put it in his head that that's girly, then he's going to believe it.
Right.
So that's all about the parent molding. They're learning, they're growing, they're taking things in from the environment. And I don't think politics in the schools should get involved with the children at all. It shouldn't be in the schools.
So your son designs he does little Barbie
dresses?
dresses?
Yeah, he cuts them up and he makes them out of balloons, aluminum foil, fabric, whatever he can find to create a fashion dress. He makes it, and it's really awesome most of the time.
As long as you don't tell him he's a girl, that'll come in handy, the fine motor skills, when he has to unhook a bra and he's older.
Oh my God, I don't even want to think about that, okay? I was a young parent, so.
The alternative could be scarier, is all I'm saying.
Oh my God.
Either that or he lives at home.
I don't think it's either learn how to unhook a bra or stay at home. But the point is well received. All right, I know it's hot out here. I appreciate you all taking the time.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Janice. Maddie, and then Itze. I was so close. Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry to make you guys be sweating out here. Get in where it's cool.
Got hot and then it cooled off a little.
Happy birthday, by the way. Wow, I actually really enjoyed this conversation for a multitude of reasons. Not that. Get your mind out of the gutter. You're better than that. It turns out that you may gain some new perspective as well as provide some for other people out there, regardless of the chasm that you think may exist between you both politically. There really is a lot of good that can come from just getting out there and talking with people.